It's my great pleasure to welcome you all to this Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy Benefactors and Friends lunch. The goal of this lunch is to have our benefactors, friends, and the school community engage on the great issues of the day. We want this to be a continuing conversation. We're sitting right in the crosshairs of further US-China confrontation. How that changing geopolitical landscape affects us. What is the call to action, as it were, for each of us? So I want our conversation this afternoon to help us unpack some of these issues. And I will, in a second, bring on stage Professor Khong Yuen Foong. When he and I were both PhD students in graduate school, it was so good that Harvard immediately made him assistant professor. Professor Khong has been my guide and mentor on matters in political science and international relations for over 4 decades. I know you're puzzling about that because I look so old in that picture and he looks so young.
To have this opportunity to share some preliminary findings of a multi-year project at the LKY school that I've been working on with my team in the past few years. A group of us also worked independently to come up with indicators. We can now let the cat out of the bag. Who is where? This figure is a representation of how the 10 Southeast Asian countries have positioned themselves if we average out their positions from 1995 to 2021. 100 means they're completely on the US side, 0, China. The first thing that this figure suggests, I think, is this. When Southeast Asian countries say they don't want to choose, it doesn't mean that they're all smack in the middle. Many of the political diplomatic alignments you saw in the slides are not fixed. Some of them are quite fluid. They can change over time. China's comprehensive power in Asia is approximating that of America's imbalance. About 90% of America's comprehensive power. And the index calls the two of them the superpowers of Asia. China is unlikely to wait until the next century to displace the US. I would settle for 2050, since 2049 is when China's rejuvenation is supposed to be accomplished.
Thank you, Yuen Foong, for that whirlwind tour through the research that you described so vividly. I want to pick out some points and then maybe spark some conversation. One of the points I want to pick out is who's going to win in this trade war? Well, of course, Southeast Asia. And I wondered if we shouldn't be thinking in such black and white terms.
Countries will judge to see which will be the less malign hegemon. Right. And in that sense, the actions of the two superpowers matter, and the domestic politics will matter greatly. So if the image or the assumption of America is no longer as benign as before, I think there will be implications. I mean, during the Cold War, people didn't have that much choice. The interesting thing is that today, there is an alternative. All right. Now, the political complexion may not appeal to everyone of that alternative, but my sense is that most in Southeast Asia do not care about political complexion as much as the United States.
Our lives are tied to how prosperous Southeast Asia is. For us in Southeast Asia, we're not vested with America nor with China. Aside from Vietnam and the Philippines, all of us have shifted towards China.
There's a lot of talk about if China replaces the US as the number one, the rules-based international order will collapse. Right? I don't buy that because when China is number one, you will also have a rules-based order. It's just that the rules will have Chinese characteristics, right? So it will be different from the current one that we are used to. And then you can ask, what are those characteristics? One of them will be a much stronger emphasis on sovereignty. All right, that we shouldn't comment on the internal politics of one another. ASEAN will be very comfortable with that up to a point.
We appreciate so much all the kindness and the help you have provided us, and we hope we will be able to have many more of these kinds of conversations. Thank you all very much.